It's been 13 years since Arsenal last won at Anfield, and this weekend they stare down the fixture, missing some key players once again. This morning I am going to discuss everything to do with how we should line up and focus in on a couple of really key positions to discuss the options available to Mikel Arteta. This is Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark, wherever you are in the world. I hope you are well. As I said at the start, I am going to be going through some key positions, specifically left wing and left back, where I think there's some key decisions for Mikel Arteta to make ahead of the trip to Anfield this weekend. But I would be remiss to not mention some other things that have been going on in the world of football in the last 24 hours. I know what you're thinking. This is an Arsenal podcast. I try to keep it about Arsenal. But wow, what a result for Grimsby last night. That is absolutely what football is all about. And it's fun to laugh at United, but absolutely think Grimsby deserve a ton of credit. I watched kind of the second half of the game last night and the penalty shootout. I thought they were terrific in the penalty shootout. Really, really calm. Obviously an advantage being in their own stadium, but it would be so easy to overthink it, not do a very good job on your penalty, kind of get into a zone where you're thinking about the grandeur of beating Manchester United. They did not buckle. The Manchester United players buckled. Cunha and Mbeumo both missing penalties. Absolutely fantastic for them. And they're into the next round and Manchester United are out. Like I say, it's an Arsenal podcast, but you've got to recognise when these amazing things happen across the world of football. And like I say, credit to Grimsby. Everything today will be a lot about how terrible Manchester United were. And they were terrible, even though they got a lot of credit for taking a lot of long shots against us. They were terrible. And I just wanted to say well done to Grimsby, because that is probably something that won't be said too much. We, of course, enter the League Cup in the next round, and we were drawn against Port Vale last night, so we have an away trip to Port Vale, week commencing 22nd of September. So a little way to go, but we will be looking at that and thinking, okay, can we get Ethan Nwaneri 90 minutes and some goals? Can we get perhaps a really big amount of numbers? That's not what I mean. A big chunky bit of minutes for Max Dowman. It means it will occur, this tie will occur between Manchester City and Newcastle most likely. So it will be a heavily rotated team, I would imagine. And we'll probably see Kepa in goal, Mosquera perhaps, Norgard if he's fit again. We'll see some of those players, which will be exciting. But the next game is the most important one, and we're going to discuss Liverpool today. Before I get started on the main topic, please, if you are new here, welcome. Consider hitting the follow button so that you get these podcasts all the time. And if you are, a returning listener, welcome back. Make sure you've hit that follow button, because it will give you the podcasts on Spotify or Apple Podcasts much more readily, and you won't miss a beat of Arsenal Unfiltered coverage. Let's start at the back. Let's start at left back, because I think that's a really interesting one. I'm going to make some broad assumptions for today when I'm talking about how we should line up at Anfield. And my broad assumptions are that Ødegaard is not going to be fit to start. We know Saka and Havertz won't be. And I'm going to kind of say White is a maybe. That's kind of some of the assumptions I'm going to make. And then also about the kind of really obvious positions. Raya's going to play. Saliba and Gabriel are going to play. Rice and Zubimendi are going to play. Gyökeres is going to play. And I think it's probably a given that Madueke is going to play in replace of Saka as well. So I think they're the positions that we're not going to talk too much about. But the two fullbacks, left wing and right 8, I think are really interesting. We're going to break them down. Let's start with left back, and inherently that will affect right back as well. Because if Ben White is fit, you do have the option of playing Timber up against Mohamed Salah and trying to lock that side down. We saw that a few years ago at Anfield, where Tomiyasu played against Salah and did a fantastic job. And it's one thing that Arsenal fans have always kind of come back to, like, can we play a right footer against Salah? Can we make sure that him cutting inside is far less deadly? It's a really interesting one, because I like it as a concept, and it worked really well when Tomiyasu did it. But what that would require is kind of de-skilling us elsewhere. If you put Timber over there, because he's the only right-footed player I believe that could go and do that job. If you put Timber over there, we're not as strong defensively at right back, and you also kind of limit what we can do from an offensive point of view at left back, because the other two options, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Riccardo Calafiori, offer unique qualities going forward that Timber, on his weaker side, probably isn't going to offer you. So I don't love that as an idea. I think it's too much change. It changes how we're going to attack down the left, and it does change the right back scenario. I would rather keep Timber at right back and, keep him doing what he's been doing. You've got to remember, Salah's not had a lightning start to the season, and Gakpo and Ekitike have combined really well down that left-hand side. Liverpool's left-hand side, I should say. Arsenal's right. So keeping one of your better defenders over there, where they are scoring a lot of goals from, that makes a lot of sense to me. So that leaves us kind of with a scenario where I've written down Miles Lewis-Skelly and Riccardo Calafiori. I should probably throw in like a Jakub Kiwior in there as well, because he's another option who could play left-back in that kind of shutdown attempt. I think Calafiori has the shirt right now, and there seems to be a very clear reason why Calafiori has the shirt right now. Arteta seems to want to deploy the left back now as the 4th/5th lane of attack. Now, depending on who is playing left wing, that will affect whether Calafiori is going inside or outside, and that has kind of we've seen that play out a lot in the recent few games, I should say. The difference being, we've seen Zubimendi and Rice in a double pivot a lot more. So rather than Rice joining into the attack and being the 4th lane of attack with Martinelli going out wide to be the 5th lane, which we saw a lot last season, with Miles Lewis-Skelly jumping into midfield, the midfield space is occupied. So Calafiori is marauding forward and joining the attack. Is that something we want to do against Liverpool? Granted, they won't have Jeremy Frimpong. So a little bit of that forward thrust is nullified. They played Sobolozai, that's always difficult, Sobolozai, at right back against Newcastle in the last game, and for all intents and purposes it worked, although they did look shaky, not just because of Sobolozai, but they looked shaky defensively anyway, especially even against 10 men. So yeah, you could keep Calafiori there, keep him bombing forward, but then you do have that Salah risk. And is Miles Lewis-Skelly a little bit more reserved? Maybe a little bit better on the turn as well. We have seen Calafiori in the past. He's a very front-footed defender, but if he gets turned, he can have some issues. And Mo Salah is a player who could turn Calafiori inside and out. So it's an interesting one. For me, I think with the double pivot playing a much bigger role this season, I would stick with Riccardo Calafiori, because he gives you so much at set pieces as well. So that's another thing you have to factor in. Miles Lewis-Skelly, I'd struggle to say he's up to speed, because we haven't seen him really. So whilst, textbook might make me think, Miles Lewis-Skelly, bit better on the turn, bit less aggressive in attacking phases. He might do a better job of wrapping up Salah. I think Calafiori gives you tons at set pieces. They don't have Frimpong, so it's an opportunity to hit them, and that right wing is a really good chance to hit them down that side and attack them. But also with Rice and Zubimendi in there, as I started this point with, Rice can cover that space. And I think what we're more likely to see is Calafiori stay in and Calafiori be marauding, and Rice just be really, really quite cautious, be more metronomic on that left-hand side of the pitch and really sweep up space and be very cautious when Calafiori goes forward. So I think it's not going to be too different. I think we will see Timber. I think we will see Calafiori. And by the way, I feel like I've sold him a little bit short there. Calafiori's still a really good defender. Whether he is as good in the defensive phases as someone like Miles Lewis-Skelly, I'm not sure. But he is a good defender. I think he'll do a good job, especially with Rice and Gabriel around him, and the opportunities that we will create by punching down that wide, well, both wings to be fair, where there are opportunities. I think that's a really good opportunity for Arsenal to exploit Liverpool. We need to score goals to win. I think we're going to, even if we want to draw, I think we're going to have to score goals, because that team are scoring goals very, very freely right now. So for me, I'd stick with Calafiori. I'd go Timber at right back. Ben White, an absolutely tremendous option off the bench. Miles Lewis-Skelly, a tremendous option off the bench. And I would not be surprised to see, if the game state allows it and we're in a good position, 60 minutes, both of those players come on to provide fresh legs, to do a timeshare there, because actually Liverpool are going to have Gakpo on their left up against Timber and White, and they're going to have Salah on the right up against Calafiori and Miles Lewis-Skelly. I think all four of our fullbacks in that scenario can have a good contest against Liverpool's players. So I think it's really important that they do get on, but I would start with Timber and Calafiori. Okay, that was the fullbacks. I'm going to take a short break, and when I come back, I'm going to discuss the left wing, right 8/10 issue, because I think that's the most exciting and really interesting one for this Anfield lineup. Hello everyone, if you're enjoying this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, I'm going to ask a really, really short favour of you right now. All you need to do is go on your podcast app of choice, find Arsenal Unfiltered and leave us a 5-star review. Wherever you get your podcast from, it really, really does help, and it will allow other Arsenal fans to see the podcast and tune in and grow this community alongside me and you. So if you would be so kind to go and leave that review, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Back to the episode. Welcome back to part 2 of this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered. In the first half, we discussed left back, right back for Anfield. How are we going to deal with Mo Salah on the left-hand side? How are we going to exploit their right back spot, which has looked a bit open, an opportunity for us to get at them. However, now we are going to talk left wing and right 8, because I think these two positions are interrelated and they will affect one another. Now, left wing is a really interesting one. Obviously, Madueke started left wing in the last game. I assume, that he is going to play right wing. So I'm going to pull him out of this conversation because I think he will be replacing Saka on the right-hand side. Typically, for a game like this, there is no debate in Mikel Arteta's head who is playing left wing. It has always been Gabriel Martinelli in a game like this. Previously, he's been defending Trent Alexander-Arnold, and his defensive application, his defensive work rate, all of that sort of stuff has been really, really valued. And for everything that we say and criticise Gabriel Martinelli for, and I've been back and forth on him on the podcast, I'm probably one of those people who kind of changes his opinion on Martinelli a little bit because he is he's on the knife edge of kind of really, really good for Arsenal, could be a major contributor, and actually surplus to requirements. Like, he's right on that knife edge. He's a really difficult player to work out. But you cannot say this guy isn't our best defensive winger. Like, he contributes so much defensively. And we've always seen Gabriel Martinelli playing games like this to do that work, to come flying back with Trent, to deal with that presence that they have from right back, and deal with flying fullbacks against other teams as well. So it's an interesting one because he has not really. He played against Old Trafford. He played against United at Old Trafford, but he didn't get a look in the previous game against Leeds. Dalman got off the bench before him. We're still not sure on his future. How much will he be able to contribute this year, and how much will Arteta select him? It's really up in the air, especially with the signing of Eze, who is the other kind of candidate, I think, for left wing. To be fair, I've not even written down Trossard, which is mad. I should have written him down for sure. But I think Trossard will be kept in reserve just in case Arteta feels the need to take Gyökeres off. I do think that that's actually probably a logical thing. I can't see Trossard being played from the start because really he's the next man up in the striker department. I don't think we want to go back to a place where we're playing Merino up front and with Havertz and Jesus out. I think he'll want Trossard fresh off the bench in case Gyökeres needs a change. So it's left wing, it's Martinelli or it's Eze. Martinelli does allow us to play Eze in the middle, in that 8/10. But I wonder if Arteta will think that the Martinelli-Eze combo is too soon. Eze has been with the club a week. He won't know that position, and I do truly believe he's being set up to play the left wing position. So any work that he's done, I don't think he will be ready for that right 8. I think he will be more ready for left wing. I want to just emphasise again, I am assuming that Ødegaard is not going to be fit for this game. Of course, if Ødegaard is fit, he will play in the right 8/10. There's no doubt about it. But I'm going to make the assumption that he's not fit, and he'll be fit after the international break or for Norway's first game, as we've seen him be selected for that. Another option is to play Martinelli and Nwaneri. Nwaneri obviously very quick off the bench against Leeds. That was a home game though. And I do think Mikel Arteta really values the home crowd, how they can support his young players. And I just wonder if he's still... We've got to remember, Nwaneri feels like a embedded part of the squad now. He's 18 years old. Like, he's still a kid. We're watching Max Dowman do things at 15, and Nwaneri seems old, but he's not. He's 18. So whether Mikel Arteta will expose him to an Anfield crowd, I don't know. And the other option is Mikel Merino. Will we go very industrious in that midfield? Rice, Zubimendi, Merino. We know Merino offers box crashing threat. He's not the cultured player, but actually, might we decide to go long into wide areas as our primary attacking threat? Kirkez, probably Szoboszlai or Bradley in the fullback positions for Liverpool. It might be a case that we're thinking, okay, Liverpool's midfield is very, very good. They've got Wirtz in there. We don't want to give high turnovers away. Their press is very effective. We are going to want to bypass that. I'm going to presume it'll be McAllister, Wirtz, Gravenberch, I would imagine. We want to bypass that because it's a good midfield and they can provide a real springboard for Ekitike, Salah, Gakpo. We'll bypass that. We'll go into the corners. We will send a ball long into right wing for Madueke and get Merino off him, or send it into Merino and get Madueke off him. And, the exact same on the left-hand side. Send the ball long, perhaps into a Declan Rice or a Merino, again, going out there, a Gyökeres going out there and play a Martinelli and Eze off him. That could be an option. And in which case, Merino is a really good idea because he does provide a little bit of that defensive and kind of pressing snap, I guess, that maybe Eze or Nwaneri wouldn't provide so much. And he provides physical presence to kind of try and outrun Gravenberch and McAllister when they are able to turn the ball over against us. I think that's a really interesting option. And it is probably, if you go Martinelli and Merino, it is probably the safest set of players you can put out because, yes, Eze's Premier League ready, but is he Arsenal ready? We just don't know. And I think it's unlikely that he will be. Nwaneri's still very young. Martinelli, he knows the position. Merino, he knows the squad. He knows the way we play. I think that could be a really interesting way that we might go. And then you have Eze and Nwaneri on the bench. So if you need to hurt them, like if the plan to go long into the corners isn't working, you've got Trossard, you've got Eze, you've got Nwaneri. That's three really good players to bring on and try and win a game. So I think that could be, that's the one I'm leaning towards at the moment. Of course, there's other options. Eze playing on the left wing with Nwaneri in the middle or Merino in the middle. That's also a nice option. Eze and Merino. I think that's probably really nice. But the one I think I would go for, and I think Mikel Arteta will go for, is Martinelli on the left wing and Merino in the right 8/10. Because for me, I don't think this is going to be won and lost based on how crafty our midfield can be. Liverpool will give us chances. We don't need a Martin Odegaard or a Eberechi Eze. I should say Eze. That's how you say his name. Sorry, apologies. We don't need either of those players to get chances against Liverpool. I don't think they give up chances, and they love to attack. That is their primary thing. They've scored 7 goals already this year. They have conceded 2 in every game they've played and managed to win 2 out of 3 if you include the Community Shield. So for me, I think putting Merino in there, more physical presence, knowing that we'll get chances anyway, that we probably won't need a perfectly slipped through ball. We'll go wide, we'll create chances out there through Madueke and Martinelli. I think he's a good option to give us that chance to go high and go long and wide. And I don't think they can outrun that midfield of Merino, Rice and Zubimendi. And Martinelli on the left, he will provide that defensive solidity to deal with Salah, to deal with whoever they put at right back. And because of the space, Martinelli's a space player. If he gets space, he's really dangerous. What's the problem has been is he doesn't get much space when he's playing for Arsenal and other teams are sitting in low blocks. This is a game he will get space in. So I'm going to make that big prediction that we won't see Eze or Nwaneri starting. We will see Martinelli and Merino. I'm going to come back to that caveat. Of course, if Odegaard is fit, he will play. So let's remember that. I'm assuming Madueke off the right as well. So how I would line up is very, very similar to how we've lined up previously, with just those couple of changes. So Raya in goal, Calafiori at left back, Gabriel Saliba, Timber, Rice Zubimendi double pivot, with Rice really thinking about that left back spot and covering Calafiori's marauding runs. We'll go Merino in the right 8/10. We will go Martinelli left wing, Gyökeres up front, Madueke right wing. If you told me a year ago we could have White, Jesus, we didn't have Norgard a year ago, but Havertz, Saka and Ødegaard all out for a trip to Anfield and be able to field a lineup as strong as that, I would have laughed at you. Like, it is a revelation. I wish we had Saka. I really wish we had Saka. He is the one player that I'm thinking, I just wish we could go there with our full 11, our full strength 11, and go at them. And I think he's the one we will miss the most because of his immense quality. But to look at that lineup and say, hey, that's with injuries, that's pretty good if you ask me. I think they've done a fantastic job. We will see how it goes this weekend. But this evening, I believe the Champions League draw is being done as well. So we will see who Arsenal get in that. We've already discussed, we've got Port Vale in the League Cup coming up now. Let's see who we get as our 8 teams that we will play in Champions League. We have to play one of the big boys twice, I think. 2 of the big boys once each. So I think that's like the PSGs, the Real Madrids, Dortmund's in there weirdly. So that's going to be interesting to see who we get and where those fixtures fall. That was a fun one, guys. I'm looking forward and terrified of the game at the weekend, all in the same breath. That's my lineup. Let me know in the comments if you have a completely different way that you would line up. But also let me know on Blue Sky. Find me on Blue Sky, Arsenal-Unfiltered at bsky.social.com. And of course, like I've said in the pod, follow and give the podcast a 5-star review if you would be so kind. It's absolutely vital to grow the podcast and let more Arsenal fans hear the coverage. All that's left to say is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I will speak to you again very, very soon.